Good afternoon. Namte Maria Kotni, a year 2 student at Uganda Matters University main campus, and I'm pursuing a bachelor in public administration and management. Basically, I'm taking this vid to distinguish between devolution, deconcentration, and delegation. But first and foremost, I want to first define for you the meaning of decentralization. Because without decentralization, we can't know what devolution or deconcentration or delegation, we can't know what they mean without decentralization. So I want to first define for you what decentralization means. So what is decentralization? Decentralization is the transfer of authority and responsibilities of public functions from the central government to the subordinate government. So we look at the central government being one big body of people ruling. Then we see subordinate governments. This we go to the local government, right from the chief administrative officer to the chairman, down to the chairman, all that chain of power. Yes, and why is decentralization very important in our country? First, there is easy and effective administration. When we are decentralized, people will actually, our leaders will effectively rule us because people have different responsibilities. The district education officer will have to pass through there are some other assistants that will be coming down to up to our communities. That's what I can say. Or maybe the president can pass a law or rules to be governed. So those rules will go into with the MPs. From the MPs, they'll go to the chief administrative officer. From there, they'll go to the LCs. From there, they'll go to the chairman until even the person down in the community has received what the president had to say. Then more employment opportunities are actually created. There are more employment opportunities. Why? Because after we are decentralized, all those offices, town clerk's office, DSO's offices, LC1's offices, LC5 offices, youth leaders offices, chairman's offices, all those offices will have to they will have to have someone to govern them, people to govern them, hence creating a wide base. For what? Creating a wide base for employment. Then transparency in usage of government funds. There is easy accountability of funds actually, because you know how very many people, one person can embezzle money, but here you will know that this money went to this office, this money went to this office, and those offices will be accountable for the usage of those funds. Then the most importance of decentralization, according to me, I think, is development of our country at large, right from our communities. Because right from our communities, yeah, we are actually developing ourselves. So then I'll go to the forms of decentralization, but I'm not going to tackle all of them. I'm going to just tell you some forms, then I'm going to look at that one that is going to lead us to those 3 terms I've been talking about right from the start. There are various forms of decentralization. 1, political decentralization, administrative decentralization, physical decentralization, market decentralization. But today I'm going to actually put more emphasis on the administrative decentralization. Why? First of all, I'm going to first define what administrative decentralization is. This administrative decentralization, this is where different levels of government administer resources and matters that have been delegated to them, generally through the Constitution. So, in terms of decentralization as a process of change, and according to the levels of transferring responsibilities. It is useful and it is very adequate if we distinguish between deconcentration, delegation, and devolution. But first and foremost, I want to start with deconcentration. So, actually, deconcentration is the process by which the agents of the central government control are reallocated or dispersed, like that's geographically. Yes, the transfer of administrative responsibilities for a specified function to a lower level within the central government bureaucracy, generally on some spatial basis. Actually, that's according to Ferguson. Then, according to me as a person, centralization. According to me as a person, I should say actually it's the weakest form of decentralization. Ask me why. Because it's a process by which the agents of central government controls are reallocated and dispersed. That shows it's the weakest form of decentralization, because if it was, you know how I define decentralization from the start, that it's transfer of authority from the central government to the local government, to other they remove some of the your central powers and they give them to other people. But these ones are just geographically transferred, like how you can transfer the whole thing from one location to another. So that shows it is the weakest. Then we go to devolution, and this is more extensive according to decentralization. Why? Because devolution is a response to demands for more local or regional autonomy, to which government officials in the central government reluctantly accede. So I guess that's self-explanatory, because we see that the local, those government officials in the central government show that they want to give some powers to the local government. Yes, so that is self-explanatory, and it's the more extensive form of decentralization. Then we go to delegation, and this we can rate it as the third according to the decentralization. Delegation is the handing over of authority from one person of a higher level to a person of a lower level. I think that is also self-explanatory, because it's just like maybe how you can hand over some powers. Let me say, like, the Speaker of Parliament has exclusive power over the Parliament, but then they say that, you know what, we are going to remove some of your powers and we give them maybe to the chief whip of the Parliament. Yes, basically that's what I had for you. Thanks for being good listeners and viewers. Stay blessed.